Right. Hi, welcome to the Raw Fork podcast, Dr. Danielle Perrodin. Hope I pronounced that right.
You did.
Um, all right. So I have with me today an integrative life coach and styling coach, which intersects with pharmacy as well. And Dr. Danielle Perrodin is also studying functional medicine as well. So, without further ado, why don't you give us just a brief introduction yourself about your background, maybe where you grew up and where you finished pharmacy school?
Okay. So I grew up and currently live in South Louisiana. Cajun country is how we call it. So if you hear an accent, I have to apologize. I briefly lived in Texas for a little while and was able to get rid of the accent a little bit, but it once I moved back, it just came back full force. So I am married with 3 children. I have a daughter who is 14 and twin boys who are 11. So that's fun in and of itself. I have been a pharmacist for 15 years now. I've always practiced hospital pharmacy mainly. When I was in pharmacy school, I did work for Walmart as an intern, but then I decided I really wanted to dabble into hospital pharmacy to make sure that was not something that I wanted to do before I got into retail because I always say it's harder to go the opposite direction. You can
Mhm.
always say you didn't like hospital and then go into retail. So I took that advice. Honestly and truly, I really wanted to do a residency when I graduated. But my husband and I, we were on our second marriages. We were a little older than some that were in pharmacy school graduating, and he was ready to start a family, and I was ready to start a family. And funny enough, I ended up finding out that I was pregnant with my first daughter whenever I graduated on stage. So,
Oh, wow.
so we were already beginning our family. So anyways, so I didn't do a residency. I went straight into hospital, which I ended up loving. So I was a staff pharmacist at first, which obviously I had my daughter within 9 months of being a brand new pharmacist, which is, difficult in of itself. We get trained in pharmacy school, but once you get out, you really kind of feel like you don't know how to be a pharmacist. So I was learning how to be a pharmacist and how to be a mom at the same time. So that was interesting. But anyways, I found it really difficult doing the shift work at the hospital with my daughter, and I really wanted to spend more time with her. And I found that she was wanting to spend more time, with me. She wanted to always be in my bed, and mommy, don't leave, go to work. So I kind of dabbled in a couple of different things. I had actually went and did IV home infusion for a little while, and that really just wasn't my thing. I ended up doing some PRN pharmacy. Ended up back at the same hospital I started at when I figured out I was doing so much PRN that I might as well get a full-time job.
Right.
Didn't tell anyone no. And so what ended up happening was that they had a job opening in the ICU. They had a 24-hour 7 day a week intensivist program that they had started up, and they wanted a pharmacist. And I
Mhm.
was like, wow, they actually want a pharmacist in the ICU rounding with them. I thought that was so cool. And since I couldn't do the residency, I thought, okay, so this would be pretty cool, because I was always very interested in the clinical work as a staff pharmacist anyway.
Right.
I really wasn't sure of myself. I didn't have the residency. I didn't have, the training. But what ended up happening was no one else wanted the job, and so I got it. So I was an ICU pharmacist for a while. I was actually an ICU pharmacist during the H1N1 epidemic. So it's interesting to kind of compare, the two, what's going on with that. But what ended up happening was I was hired with as a contract with Cardinal. And so we were just doing so much clinical work. But then once the hospital itself decided that, okay, Cardinal saved them enough money, they kind of like let them out, gently. And I was able to stay on, but the hospital culture really wasn't very positive about clinical pharmacy. Um,
Mm.
So it just wasn't, I just found myself where I was just pushing paper around.
Right.
And I was like, I'm not growing. This is not for me. Ended up, so I was actually, for that job, I was also commuting an hour to
Mm-hmm.
and from. And then my daughter was starting kindergarten, and it was time for a change. So I went back to PRN at a smaller hospital, which was fantastic. I was able to spend more time with my daughter. At that time, I had the twins, so that was juggling two babies at once. So it was really perfect. I love that about pharmacy, that you really can kind of make it your own. I love that about pharmacy, that you can kind of pick up and put it down, and there's so many different avenues and interests. I love that about our profession.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so let's see. So then we decided to move, my husband and I. He was already working an hour away in the opposite direction that I was commuting to. We decided to move to a larger city where they had more opportunity. The hospital that I was working PRN for started cutting hours. And I was PRN, so I was the first one to get cut. And so that was stressful with three kids. And so we moved to a bigger city. I got a full-time job, started working pharmacy full-time again. And I ended up working as a pharmacy director of a hospital, which I had never had that interest. I just never did, but the opportunity came to me, and I decided just to try it out. And I did that for the last 5 years, and then decided that, it's been great. It's been fun. I made a lot of money. We're able to, I was at this one hospital where I was able to bring them from pretty much 3 decades of improvement. They were still doing handwritten 30-day mores.
Wow.
They had no integration with their medication cabinet. They had no pharmacy, profiles. And by the time I left, we had computerized physician order entry. So
Wow.
that
Amazing.
was fun, and it was exciting, and I was always growing. But then once we caught up to speed, there was no more growth, and I found myself just pushing papers again
Mm-hmm.
and going to meetings. And I found myself in what I called like the hamster wheel.
Mm-hmm.
There was no growth. And what I didn't realize, so that's whenever I was feeling a little bit of depression, which I didn't really realize that's what it was at the time, but I was always tired and um, just kind of irritable and wasn't growing. And there was just a lot going on. And when I decided to, it was bad enough where I needed to make a change,
Mm-hmm.
I did that, and it was so great. But what really brought it on was just feeling like I was always looking to the next thing, to the next thing. When I make more money, I'll be happier. When I have a house, I'll be happy. When I have the job I like, whenever, the kids are able to go to school and take care of themselves. And then finally I decided, happiness comes from inside, and I need to stop and take a look and do some inner work.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally true. Rings so true for me as well. So when you decided that things had to change, what did you do then? Did you quit your job? Did you look for new opportunities? Is that when you started to look to functional medicine, or how did you become a styling and image coach?
Yeah, it's so crazy. And when I try to explain it to people, it's like it's just this weird long journey. And I'm like, I get confused what happened. And but really looking back, what kind of jolted me out of it was starting my own business, and it was an MLM company. And it was just something that I could look forward to and try and grow and, you know, earn, like, I guess, reach for goals and set goals and reach for them and all these things. And it just brought some of that energy back into my life.
Mhm.
Um, and it was too funny because one of the MLMs that I had dabbled in was hair extensions and eyelash extensions. And it was so weird and crazy, but it brought back this love for beauty and for fashion that
Mhm.
was always there, but as a mom, a wife, a pharmacist, like I wasn't giving that any of attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so it brought back that old passion of mine. Whenever I was a little kid, I just always loved to dress up and I would wear the craziest things. And I can't believe my parents would allow me to, but they did. But I just always loved expressing myself that way. And so yeah, so I joined that company, but I could never really be successful. And so um, I started looking inwards. I was like, why, I went to pharmacy school. I was able to graduate pharmacy school. Everything I ever wanted to do, I was able to do. Why can't I do this? And
Mm-hmm.
so again, I went and looked inward and I started learning the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
I started studying the law of attraction. And it was so funny. I started sharing what I was learning with my audience. And I started going live to do live video. And whenever I would tell them, look, I'm studying law of attraction, they're like, oh, how do you study law of attraction? I'm like, okay, so I'm not going to school for it. I'm reading books and I'm talking to people who, do it and just different things. And once I started that, like everything just clicked. So I just found these mentors that I started listening to. And I started figuring out, what kind of things were holding me back in my life. What was going on with that? And I found that I had some limiting beliefs. I had a lot of unworthiness that I didn't even know was there. I don't know when it started coming in, but it just started creeping in. And it was crazy whenever I unfolded that. I did not realize that. I couldn't even take a picture of myself before I started going live. Like I wanted to do selfies and sell this hair, and there was so much self-judgment about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was so interesting to go inside and take a deeper look at that and figure out, where did that come? What were the triggers for that?
Right.
Yeah. And so to answer your question about how to become a stylist, so with that company, I started to sponsor, it was called Acadiana Fashion Week. It
Ooh.
was only its second year. So there was a young woman who started this movement in Louisiana, and she wanted to bring fashion to Louisiana. There was no, we have New Orleans Fashion Week, but in our area, they really didn't have that. And so, in order to promote my lashes and my hair, I sponsored it. And I tell you what, that first night there was just the passion for the fashion industry just came out of me. There was this new energy.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I would bring that to work. So I was still working as a director of pharmacy. But yet now that I felt more whole, because I brought that piece of me back in and integrated it. When I
Uh-huh.
was at work, I felt more joy and purpose. And when I was at home as a mom, I felt more joy and purpose. And so I just said, I want to share this with the world.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I am sponsoring Fashion Week. I am studying law of attraction. And then I came across an integrative coach that was doing training for healthcare professionals
Mm-hmm.
to become coaches. And so it's like, hey, this sounds interesting. Maybe I can combine pharmacy with all of this law of attraction, help people improve their health that way. Um, so that was so cool. And so I started that training in August of 2018. I decided that I wanted to combine integrative life coaching with pharmacy. And I really, at that point, I had heard of integrative medicine, but didn't really know what it was exactly. So I started researching what's integrative medicine, what is holistic medicine, what is functional medicine. I don't know if I even knew that was a thing at the time. In 2018, I just started researching all this stuff. What is allopathic medicine? What is, all of the things. And I had stumbled upon your website at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was so crazy whenever you had emailed me to be on the podcast and I saw that we had already emailed back and forth. I was like, wait, what is this?
Yeah, I
Um,
didn't realize that either, to be honest.
it
Because I
was
think I saw you on Instagram the second time. or
Mhm.
or maybe through the functional medicine Facebook group, functional medicine pharmacy Facebook
Yeah.
group. One of those.
Yeah. So I saw that another pharmacist was doing it already. So
Hmm.
you're such an inspiration to me that,
Oh,
um,
thank you.
branch out. Yes. And you're such an inspiration to so many people. And so it just inspired me to keep going. So I finished my training of integrative life coaching in February of 2019, and I hosted my first retreat in March, not knowing what I was doing, if anybody would come. I just put it out into the world that I'm having this retreat. I called it Disconnect to Reconnect, and I was inviting women who wanted to, just take a deeper look inside themselves, slow down, and were interested in creating something in their lives. And I had a few women that came. I had one that drove from Missouri. She was a pharmacist.
Wow.
And so it just gave me that confirmation that what I was doing, I was on the right path. And I just kept going and kept going and kept going. So now, the reason I decided to integrate the styling with coaching was I had hired a coach and she asked me, what would you do for free that you love it so much? And I knew that I wanted to help women. I just didn't know how. But when she asked me that question, I couldn't deny it because that day I was volunteering my time on my day off all day long in the hot Louisiana sun, um, to help with promotions for Acadiana Fashion Week at a photo shoot.
Wow.
And in fact, I had to leave that to go on the phone call with her. And I didn't want to leave. I just wanted to stay and do it all day long. And it didn't matter if I was helping hold up lighting or steam fashion, the clothes. It didn't matter what I was doing. I just wanted to be there. So I knew that I loved it and I just wanted to do it. And I said, what better way to help women who want to show up like I was online, promote their business, but don't feel confident. And maybe they have the same unworthiness that I was feeling. They
Hmm.
don't know what to wear. They don't know, what looks good on them. So what I do is that I'm a style and image coach. And so I style their body and their mind.
Awesome. Awesome. So, um, did you kind of have that innate creativity and vision, and that you felt confident coaching in that way? Or did you also get some kind of training, or was it all like inspiration from the fashion shows that you were putting on that you felt that you were an expert and that you could market yourself in that way?
Great question, because of course there's so much imposter syndrome that comes up. How
Yeah,
can I do
yeah.
it? Like I was, I didn't feel like I was really dressing the greatest. As a pharmacist, we just kind of dress bland, right?
Right.
In fact, when I worked in the ICU, there was this one physician who would always tease me, and I thought I was dressing nice,
Uh-huh.
but he would always make these comments about my clothes, and I'm like, what? I'm just a pharmacist. This is not like fashionista. Like, what is going on here? But anyways, so yes, so I did get inspired by the fashion show. So I went to, a few of the fashion weeks. I went to New Orleans Fashion Week. I helped with boutiques and I helped with photographers doing branding photos. So, I was constantly looking to see what was trendy, what was going, what looks good with what. I was picking up just like innately, like you said. But also, I just love studying and learning. I'm a nerd. I went to pharmacy school. Hello, you have to enjoy that. And so I always would study what are the trends that are coming. So, what are the Pantone colors for this season? What are the trends? And I would always go to Pinterest and look and see how can I make that for like streetwear, how can I incorporate that inspiration into what I wear. Obviously we don't walk around what people wear on the
Runway.
catwalk. It's so out there, but you could just take that inspiration and create something. So that's super fun for me. um, I didn't go to fashion school. I didn't do any designer training, But I did take a couple of style business courses.
Mm-hmm.
That's helped tremendously. And I'm still in one right now. I'm in Kate Taylor's styling school. And
Nice.
that's super fun. So I get to, rub elbows with other stylists, learn tips from them, learn, what looks good on what type of body shape, what colors. And I just love it. And I think just loving it, you just absorb stuff. You don't have to go to college for everything.
Yeah, yeah, I love that message. And I have to confess, I love Project Runway, and now they're reinstating it with Making the Cut. Tim Gunn and Heidi are back, so I'm super excited. It's
Yes, I
fun.
love. My favorite was What Not to Wear with
Oh,
Stacey London. Oh my gosh. I even have it recorded now to go and watch all the repeats.
yeah, I have to
So,
check that out. But that was like my favorite thing to also watch reruns of when I was on maternity leave. I viewed my little baby. But it's so inspiring, like shows like that, even if you're not into fashion, like, my business has nothing to do with fashion, but just the creativity that bounces off the people that are creating things on those type of shows is really contagious. So I just really love that. And it just inspires whoever's watching to maybe work on their own craft, whatever that may be.
yes, it's so inspiring to see someone else being creative. And we're just creative beings in general, you know? Like, I really feel like that's what we're put on earth is to create.
Absolutely. And I think, because we have so much access, even in times like this when we are socially isolated, we still have, all the presence of social media and internet and video chats like we're doing. So it's so easy to consume all these things and like read books or ebooks or Kindle or whatnot, but not actually go back and create something of your own. So I think like that's a delicate balance of like learning from other people, getting inspired from other people, but also then turning around and putting it into your own little vessel and your own creation that you're putting out onto the earth.
Right, exactly. No one else can create what you have inside and what you have to bring out to the world.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the journey that you described when you still felt like you're not expressing your full self. You're looking towards, attaining things and certificates and jobs and, things that are basically consumer items, such as a house and things like that. But then when it comes down to it, it's really about your own self expression and purpose in the world that you felt like you needed to put out there, and you felt like it was something was still missing, like you haven't expressed your full potential, and that's what you had to go and do.
Yes, exactly. And so my motto is life is too short. And it's always been that. So whenever I was 18, I just graduated from high school. I got married right away. My boyfriend was in the military and we were 8 hours apart. So we were in love. We got married. I actually fell in love with him because I saw him with his daughter. So he had a daughter previous to us getting married, and I saw them together, and so just his love for her made me fall in love with him. And unfortunately they both passed away like really soon. So by the time I was 21, I had experienced so much loss
Well,
that I had that motto that life is too short and you have to be living it. And so when I discovered that, I finally woke up and I was like, you're not living your life. Like, what is this? And it's hard for me to say that because I was remarried. I have three beautiful kids. I have a wonderful job. I have a healthy family. My immediate family, my brothers and sisters, my parents are all still very healthy and alive. So much to be thankful for. But the problem was I wasn't being in gratitude for all of that. I was just always looking for something to make me happy externally. And I just didn't realize that, they always say choose happiness, or happiness is a choice. I didn't understand that. I didn't know. And I think so many other people were just like I was, they weren't awakened.
Right.
I was not awakened. I didn't know any better until you know. And once you know, it's like you can't unknow it.
Yeah, such a good point. Yeah, and I'm so sorry. That sounds like such a traumatic loss. And like
Yes.
you said, like so early in life. I mean, you were 21. But that must have really affected a lot of your adult life. So it's amazing to see you like turn that around and like make that as a positive and like live in your life to the fullest because you know that some people don't get that chance.
Right. I live for them because they're not here to live. So, but we all can learn that lesson. We all lose loved ones. And right now with this pandemic, it's almost like a blessing in a way because, it's making people take a deeper look at themselves right now and how are they living. And it just made everyone come to a stop and reevaluate what's going on.
Yeah, I totally agree. I recently just wrote a blog post about what COVID is teaching us. And I pretty much wrote the same premise that, during great time of strife is when we have the potential for the most growth because we really see what's important and what, our short time on earth, what do we want to do with that short time? Like, how do we want to live it? What do we want to prioritize? And even just like watching movies about wartime and things like that, like you could see that, yeah, it's really, really hard. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But those people that are living it, put value on certain things and live those minutes and hours and days that they have to the fullest almost. So and even people that get diagnosed with really, scary illnesses and have, terminal sentences or whatnot, those are the people that suddenly want to travel the world or like do whatever they were holding themselves back from. So it's just like a lesson to us. And now that we're all in this together and all like going through the same thing, it's just that much more powerful because it's not happening on an individual level, it's happening on a global level right now.
Right. We're all going through the same thing at the same moment in the entire world. So all of that energy is just all connected. Like I truly believe that we're all connected and we all have this opportunity and it's such a gift.
Yeah, yeah. So even though there's definitely like been a lot of loss and pain and bad things that have happened, the people that are survivors, and I think it just shows us also how strong we are and what we want to do once this is over and like how we want to live henceforth. Yeah.
Yes, I so much agree with everything about that.
Yeah, and even some people are definitely complaining about social isolation right now and staying home and things like that. So they could take this time to introspect and like really think about what they want to do and what the takeaway is, and really just look on those positive silver linings because we can't really control what's happening, but we can control our response and, the vision that comes henceforth.
Exactly. We can't control the external, but we can control the internal, how we respond. And so we get to choose what our response is going to be. Is it going to be just to live in fear of when we're going to die, when we're going to get sick? What if someone we're going to love, we love, we're going to lose? What if we lose our job? And what if the economy, plummets? What's next? What's next? And we can live in that. Or we could take this moment to reevaluate how we have been living and how we want to moving forward. And we can also take time to learn something new or to create something new. I really do love how so many families with the kids being home, how they've just created all of this, homeschooling places in their home and all of these different ideas. And they are being very creative. And so that's such an example of the human spirit. I love that. But I'd also love to see those that, are maybe piercing into that living room and they're saying, well, I'm really unhappy with, my job right now. I have to go to work and expose myself. I don't have time to create things with my kids, but you can learn a meditation, or you can learn how to journal, or you can learn, how to go in. You could take this time to do that, and just be like an example for others. What I
Yeah.
teach is that something like that is a trigger, and so it should be a gift. And so if you get upset because someone else is maybe sharing stuff and you're jealous because you don't have time to do that, then use that as a trigger, and go and, why does that bother you? Go look inward and see what is important to me. Why am I not living that way? How should I be living? What's important to me? And
Right.
I always help my clients to evaluate all areas of their life so that they can walk into that. And when I start working with a client, I love the first step we do is to get clear and to work on clarity and look to see where they are in their lives and evaluate that and compare it to where they want to go and what their true inner higher self is. And I help them to close that gap between the two so that they can show up as their true authentic self and start living their best life ever. And it just so happens to be with clothes to start off with. Whenever I started my journey, I actually started in my closet. So I did a full closet clean out. So
Mhm.
many people are doing that right now with the pandemic, anyways. And I did a full closet clean out. And what it did was it cleared the clutter in my space physically, but it also cleared the clutter in my mind. And so
Mm.
then I was able to create something.
Yeah, I love that. I also follow Marie Kondo, her organization method and decluttering methods. And she also recommends to start with the clothes because that's almost like the simplest way. And then you kind of like get the knack for what's important and what's not. And then you can do that with the rest of your house. And then down to like sentimental items is her last category. So once you get like that muscle going, it's pretty much like a muscle, both discerning what's important and what's not, and then also creativity. If you don't use it, you lose it. So if you just keep on practicing it, you can enhance it, and just because you say like I'm not creative because I have to do XYZ and I don't have time, but if you did make the time, how did you get good at your job? How did you learn to walk? How did you learn to read? Like it all takes practice. So and then there's like so many levels of mastery. So just because you can read a page, some people like do speed reading or like other kinds of things. So there's just like so many levels that you could take it to, and only with practice will you get that inspiration and that ability to go inward and put something outward.
Right. So mastery and wisdom, it's something that comes from having learned or knowing and then doing, and then you just become it, and then you integrate it all. What I do it a little differently. I teach my clients to know it and then be it through
Mm.
visualization techniques,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go and do, because especially for people who are like me, science oriented, or we just want to know, give me the directions on how to do it and I'll just go do it. But no one can give you the directions how to create your ideal life, because we are not you and nobody's lived it yet. So you have to become her. So that's my program, is to be her now. And so I have some equations that I use. I kind of throw in the science world into that way that we do that. I just love it. But the way I do it differently also with the closet is that I don't just like throw everything on your bed and overwhelm, because I like to kind of go with the way our brains are wired. And if you do that, you feel this heaviness and this overwhelm, and then you just dread it.
Mm.
But everything that I do, I teach my clients to take one small bite size at a time. So we just focus on one item at a time. And we go through a closet clean out over 3 weeks sometimes. if
Wow.
not more. It's very, very slow and easy, and you don't have to worry about not having time. You don't have to worry about I don't feel like it. You don't have to worry about all of those things. It's all about how you feel in your body to get yourself to take action.
Yeah, I love that. So it's like very methodical, and for like the science oriented or even A-type personalities, you also want to explain like the reason why and the reason behind things.
Yeah.
Yes, so and then you can get them on board because now they know, okay, that makes sense to me logically. So like I'll go through the motions because that, I now believe that it can work.
Yes, yes, it's so important. And that's another step that I take my clients through is why? Why do you want this in your life, first of all? And that'll bring you that intrinsic motivation that'll get you to do and take action. So I could talk about this stuff all day long. I
Yeah,
just love
yeah, I love that. So, I just want to go back to one thing that you mentioned. When you started learning about the law of attraction, how did you, and you said you started conveying that to your audience. So was that also kind of, natural that you started building an audience, or was it your friends and family on social media first? How did you like reach a following?
Okay, so it was so difficult for me. And this, again, it was a gift because I had discovered that unworthiness of me. I was so frightened to go live, so afraid, but I knew I wanted to do it because I knew that it was the best way to connect with people, for them to get to know, love, and trust you. And for months, I like had this internal struggle where I wanted to do something, but I could not do it. I was like,
Mhm.
this is some strong stuff. This is insane. And so I had to go and do that inner work that I do also with my clients. And so once I was just able to go live, the way I was able to do that was I went like at 4 in the morning. My hair was barely brushed. I didn't have makeup on. And I just came out very authentic. And I just would say, hey, it's my birthday. I didn't even really brush my hair. And so it was just kind of the way to trick my brain. Because even though I wasn't convinced that, maybe that I'm pretty or that people like me, I could just say, well, you didn't brush your hair. And if you tell them that you didn't brush your hair, then they're not going to be like, oh my God, look at her hair.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I never
crazy.
brush
Our
my
brains, your hair is gorgeous. But so it was just this crazy thing with my brain that I had to trick it. And so I just, another trick that I did was that I told people I was going to do it. And I'm a type of person that if I tell someone I'm going to do it, I have to follow through. So that was another trick. So I made an announcement and he said, hey, I am going to come live and teach you the stuff that I am learning once a week. And I want you to join me, join me on this journey. And I didn't know if anyone was going to be interested, but they were. And I was like, whoa, okay. So I'm not the only one. And even though it was hard, it just felt like I could feel the heat of shame whenever I would go live. And first of all, I was very introverted, very shy person to begin with, not very vocal. It was so difficult, but whenever I would get direct messages saying how much that helped them, or that, something that I told them, made an impact on their lives. It was so funny. One of my first lives that, you know, I had gone live on, there was a pharmacist, a fellow pharmacy student that was on there, and he was like, yes, this is helping me with my marriage. And I was like, wait, what? Okay. So now that I'm helping people, and that's all we're here for, is to help others. Once you're serving others, it's like a total game changer. You
Yeah.
take yourself out of the equation, and you're just able to show up and be authentic, and you don't have to be perfect. And so that's pretty much how I started, getting gaining followers. Really and truly was being authentic and not waiting until it's perfect and not trying to be someone else. I know I'm weird, I'm quirky. It was so difficult working at the hospital at the same time and going live, because then it's like almost like I had this one little like compartment life where I was a director of pharmacy and professional, and then over here I was like being, first of all, someone who was learning how to do these things and showing up while I was learning it, and being allowing myself to be a student and not be perfect. And once I allowed those two worlds to intermingle and just show up as my true self, that's when it really became super easy. And funny enough, that's when I started attracting more people to me.
Yeah, I could totally relate to compartmentalizing and just thinking like, okay, this is appropriate in this environment and to these people, but this part of me is not appropriate, so I have to kind of keep it on the DL, and then like vice versa, and just like being different personas around different people. So, I love that you integrated the two. I really want to applaud that because it can be like very mind-boggling to do that, and you kind of have to be brave and just like show up as your true self and just go for it, and not be in shame or in fear as you do that. And I love that you're combining like this left brain kind of profession with a right brain, very like styling and fashion forward thinking, and like combining it all in one business. I really love that. So I want to know, are you currently full-time coaching? Are you still doing pharmacy, PRN, or otherwise? And what is next for your business?
Okay, so I am still doing pharmacy PRN. I am working still for the same hospital that I did before. I work for that same employer, and then I also have another hospital that I work PRN for. Because I'm not quite yet ready to jump full fledged into it. But I'm picking up clients at the same time. So remember, I do everything slowly. Methodically. So I just trick my brain and say, just get one client at a time and, see how that works with your pharmacy schedule and your life schedule and coaching schedule. And then I get another client and mix them in. But eventually I would like to be doing full-time coaching where the pharmacy I can do health coaching as well with the functional medicine as I'm studying functional medicine now. I really do think I'll always do some PRN pharmacy. We'll just have to see when time tells once that's going, but I right now it's a combination of of everything. So and I really like it that way. It's a good balance.
Yeah.
Sometimes I even think, I wish for this full-time full-time coaching career, but my brain wants to say, but what if you get bored with that? It's so crazy. You have to trick this little silly brain. If you
Mix
listen
it up,
to your
keep it
insane.
interesting.
Yeah, so right now I'm really enjoying juggling everything. It's really fun. Going forward, I am working on, like I said, my Be Her Now program. So right now I'm working on one-on-one clients, but eventually I would like to have some group coaching, and I love retreats, so that's definitely in the future. There's just nothing like connecting physically in the same room. There's always some elevation up leveling that happens with that, and it's just beautiful to watch. So my mission is to help women to elevate their lives, to be her now. So figure out how to create a healthier, more beautiful life now.
I love that. So, you are such a lovely guest. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom and your life journey with us. If you just have a couple more minutes, I have some rapid fire questions for us.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So, what's the number one thing listeners can do right now to improve their quality of life?
I can't recommend meditation enough. For me, that was a game changer. It had been recommended to me, over and over and over again. I always resisted it because it was hard and it felt weird, and I don't have time for that. And I had so many excuses about it. But once I really began a meditation schedule, things just really started to take place and happen and change really, really quickly. So that's what I would recommend. And you could do that in your house. You don't need any equipment.
Yeah, I love that. If you don't schedule it in, it won't happen. That's also my motto. So
So true.
So you'll always, run out of time. But if it's in your calendar, and you treat it with the same like respect and responsibility as your other schedule items, then, you can make time for it. Um, and I just want to mention there's like a few meditation apps that you can get on your phone. And right now, I think Headspace is offering it for free for healthcare workers because of the COVID pandemic. So definitely check that out. All right. What is a hobby or favorite pastime of yours?
Okay, so I'm just a nerd. I love reading. I can't read enough, so I'm constantly nose in the books and studying about this crazy stuff that's like I just can't get enough of it. But when I'm not doing that, I do love to garden. Of course, I like to shop. Just hang out with my family.
Nice, nice. What is your favorite beverage to drink?
Oh, that's a good question. Water, I'd have to say, just because I feel like I never drink enough, so I feel guilty if I'm drinking anything else. If maybe coffee though. Coffee's my one addiction.
Coffee.
I don't think I want to give up, so love coffee.
All right. And lastly, how can our listeners get in touch with you, learn more about your work, or look into your programs?
Yes, I would love to connect with them. They can reach me on my website. It's danielleperdin.biz. Um, hopefully you have my name in the show notes because it's so long.
Okay.
But Perrodin is Perrodin. They could also reach me on Facebook at Danielle Perrodin. I have a Facebook group called Style Your Mind and Body.
Mhm.
On Instagram and LinkedIn at Dr. Danielle Perrodin. They can also, and just send me a direct message. I love chatting.
All right. Well, thank you again so much. I'll have all that info in the show notes for the listeners, and I hope we keep in touch.
Definitely. I look forward to. Thank you so much. This was so amazing.
Yeah, my pleasure. Have a good day. Bye.